I believe that the shotgun is the best home defense weapon. Here's why. So before I continue this video, if you have any thoughts or opinions on this subject, or if you want to tell me what kind of weapon you use for your home defense, make sure you comment below. When it comes to figuring out if this weapon is the best home defense weapon, you first need to consider the pros and the cons. So I've basically created a list of pros and cons that I have researched from across the internet to basically put this in perspective. So the first pro I wanted to talk about is its cost. A shotgun is cheap. You can't get any cheaper than a shotgun. This shotgun I have is a Firearms Lion X4 shotgun. It basically is a semi-auto tactical shotgun that's geared towards home defense. This cost me roughly around $300–400. Now, is it worth it? I believe so. Of course, it's a semi-auto. For some prefer a pump action. But pump actions happen to run cheaper, so you can get like a cheap pump action for roughly about $200. So yeah, so it's quite cheap. Second pro is it's effective. Considering its cost, a shotgun is very effective. You can load all kinds of rounds into it, and particularly buckshot. Buckshot is great for stopping any human target or an invader that comes into your property or home. So in general, you have a wide variety of uses. So the third option, particularly when it concerns home defense, is lack of over-penetration. If you use a round like buckshot, then yeah, it's most likely the round is going to over-penetrate, go through a wall, hit someone on the other side. But if you decide to load it with turkey shot, then the chances of that decrease immensely. And this has been proven and tested in multiple videos throughout the internet. I can include some in the description below. So now it's time to list the cons. So the first con I have on the list is size. So this gun is relatively small. It's not the biggest that shotguns can get, or rather should I say the longest. The barrel length is sufficient for home defense. So, maneuvering through the house for me is not that difficult. However, it's still a legitimate concern because any weapon that is big like this can be kind of cumbersome, but can also leave you somewhat vulnerable should your target close the distance between where they are and where you're at. Then there's recoil. Shotgun recoil is known to hit hard. So I can attest that after a certain point of shooting, it feels like someone has basically punched your shoulder over and over again. Essentially, your shoulder is going to be sore, and for some, it might even knock them down or make it so that they're not able to deliver more target rounds downrange and all that fun stuff. So it is a legitimate concern, and especially for those of smaller stature, that is something that you may want to consider if you're planning on buying a shotgun for home defense. Then there's a low ammo count. So this gun particularly only holds about 3 rounds in its chamber, in its mag tube. And then that's not counting the one chamber. So that gives me, like I said, roughly 4 shots. Some shotguns, I think the shotgun can be modified to carry more, but most other shotguns, you get anywhere from 4 to 8 rounds. Even at its maximum of 8 rounds, that's still not a lot when it comes to home defense, because if you ever get into a firefight, which may be more towards unlikely, but if you ever get into a firefight, you're gonna want more than 8 rounds before you have to reload. Then you have the fourth con, which is the reload time. So with a shotgun, you have to load each and every round into the mag tube, and you have to chamber each one. So that can be time consuming, especially if you're sitting there in a firefight and you're trying to reload the weapon. It's not hard to do, but it's time consuming. So those are all the pros and cons to a shotgun. Now, despite everything I said, do I still recommend it? Yes, largely because of its price. It's cheap. When it comes to most guns, you're gonna be looking at like a $700 or more price tag for a good weapon. And they're starting to make, some pistols and that are, around the $300–400 range. The problem still is, as you've seen with this recent events in 2020, there's been gun and ammo shortages. So largely it's been difficult to get those kind of weapons. Those are the ones that tend to go first, and then the more expensive ones thereafter. So, but when it came to shotguns were still widely available. You really can't go wrong with it. But another thing to consider is if you're a smaller stature, you need to consider the recoil and the size. Are you going to be able to handle it? And frankly, when it comes to any weapon you choose for your defense, you want to make sure you can handle it and use it appropriately. If you can't, then don't bother. It's going to be a hindrance to you. It's going to be a liability. You're going to get killed by it, possibly. To sum it all up, it is up to you. It is up to your preference, what you're comfortable with, and what you're willing to use. So that's all I have to say in this video. You know my motto. Now you know, and no one's half the battle. Have a good day.